She handed in her essay at 9 p.m. By 9:58 p.m., someone called 911. In less than 30 minutes, a 21-year-old Yale student traveled 2 miles from campus and ended up dying in the street with 17 stab wounds. Nobody saw how she got there. Nobody saw who did it. But here's what makes this case truly different. It's not just a murder that was never solved. It's a murder where police accused the wrong man, destroyed his career, and spent years chasing a ghost while the real killer walked free. This is the story of Suzanne Jovin. And the investigation is almost as disturbing as the crime itself. Suzanne Jovin was born in Göttingen, West Germany, in 1977. She was the daughter of 2 scientists, and by every account, exceptional. At Yale University, she tutored elementary school children, sang in the university chorus, co-founded the German Club, and spent her senior year directing Best Buddies, a charity pairing students with adults who had intellectual disabilities. By every measure, she spent her time making other people's lives better. On the evening of the 4th of December 1998, she organized a pizza party for Best Buddies at a local church. She stayed late to clean up, borrowed a university car to drive a volunteer home, returned it to the parking lot by 8:45 p.m. Around 9:25 p.m., friends knocked on her window and asked if she wanted to see a movie. Suzanne said she was very, very tired. She was looking forward to getting a lot of sleep. That was the last time anyone who knew her saw her alive. What happened in the next 33 minutes is the central mystery of this case. At some point, after 9:25 p.m., Suzanne left her apartment. There is no established reason why. At 9:58 p.m., a passerby called 911. They had found a young woman on the grass at the corner of Edge Hill Road and East Rock Road, 2 miles from campus, in a quiet neighborhood popular with Yale faculty. Suzanne Jovin had been stabbed 17 times in her head and neck. The tip of the murder weapon was found lodged in her skull. She was rushed to Yale New Haven Hospital. She died that night. Police quickly established that she could not have walked 2 miles in 33 minutes, which meant someone had given her a ride or taken her there against her will. To this day, no one knows which. 4 days after the murder, a name appeared in the local newspaper: James Van de Velde. Van de Velde was a 38-year-old Yale lecturer in political science. He had a PhD in international security studies, had worked for the Pentagon and the State Department, and served in U.S. Naval Intelligence. He was also Suzanne Jovin's senior thesis advisor. The leak of his name was, from the very beginning, built on almost nothing. Police had theorized that because Suzanne may have gotten into a car willingly, the killer was likely someone she knew. Van de Velde was someone she knew. That was essentially the reasoning. They privately suggested Van de Velde and Suzanne had been involved in an affair that had gone wrong. Suzanne's friends, including her boyfriend, called this notion ridiculous. 15 months after the murder, a police sergeant admitted publicly, "From a physical evidence point of view, we had nothing to tie him to the case. I had nothing to link him to the crime. Nothing." And yet, Van de Velde's name was already in the papers. Yale had dropped his classes. His career was effectively over. DNA from Suzanne's fingernail scrapings was tested. It did not match Van de Velde. A fingerprint at the scene was tested. It did not match Van de Velde. The world-renowned forensic scientist Henry Lee offered to reconstruct the crime scene. Police accepted, and then never followed through. It wasn't until 2013, 14 years after the murder, that police finally admitted Van de Velde was no longer a suspect. He had spent 14 years fighting to clear his name. He sued Yale and the police department. The settlement was approximately $200,000. He eventually rebuilt his career at Johns Hopkins University. But the real killer had never been found, and the investigation had wasted over a decade chasing the wrong man. While police were fixated on Van de Velde, A key witness had come forward with information they chose to ignore. A female motorist told police she had seen a white male sprint across the road near the crime scene and disappear into church property at approximately 10 p.m. on the night of the murder. She described what she saw clearly. Police showed her a photo of Van de Velde. She said it was not him, and then investigators stopped contacting her. It wasn't until 2008, 10 years after the murder, that police publicly released a sketch of this man and acknowledged his existence. He came to be known in investigative circles as Billy. Billy reportedly spoke German, as Suzanne did. He was often seen wearing a green jacket matching witness descriptions. He allegedly had a troubled history with women. In 2011, a local resident named Gilles Carter had a deeply disturbing encounter with a man who matched this description. The man showed up at Carter's door, visibly distressed. They went for a walk, and in a park, the man stopped and said, "Yes, I'm obsessed with the murder of Suzanne Jovin." Shortly after, the man died in what was described as a bizarre accident on Interstate 95, possibly a suicide. Whether his DNA was ever compared to evidence from the crime scene has never been publicly confirmed. In the absence of a conviction, theories have multiplied. Some point to Billy as the most probable suspect, citing the green jacket, the German language connection, and the proximity to the scene. Others believe Suzanne was killed by a complete stranger in a random act of violence. There is a third theory that is more unsettling still. Suzanne's apartment sat directly above a Yale police substation. Some have raised the possibility that the catastrophic mishandling of the case, the unexplained secrecy, the baseless focus on Van de Velde may have been an attempt to protect someone connected to law enforcement. This has never been proven. It remains speculation. And then there is the thesis. On the day she died, Suzanne had submitted the final draft of her senior essay. Its subject was Osama bin Laden and the emerging threat of Islamic militancy. This was 1998, 3 years before September 11. Some have speculated the subject matter made her a target. Investigators have generally dismissed this, but it has never been definitively ruled out. In December 2025, retired detective Ed Kendall returned as he does every year on December 4th to the corner where Suzanne's body was found. He stood beside the tree. He remembered. Jovin's murder remains the only unsolved homicide in New Haven from 1998. In a city that recorded 15 murders that year, hers alone has never been closed. Yale and the city of New Haven have offered a combined $150,000 reward for information leading to an arrest. That reward has gone unclaimed for 27 years. Suzanne Jovin was 21 years old. She spent her last evening helping others. She said goodnight to her friends, and 33 minutes later, she was gone. Her killer is still out there, and the $150,000 reward is still waiting. If you have any information about the murder of Suzanne Jovin, contact the tip line at 1-866-623-8058 or email jovin.cas@ct.gov. What do you think happened in those 33 minutes? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more cases like this, subscribe to Grave Noir, because next week we're going somewhere even darker.